Welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining me as I explore the wide world of pens. And yes, I'm starting off with a pen held up by a crab on a turntable. Say no more. So I think wood makes an excellent material from a visual perspective, the grain in the wood, the feel of the wood, to make a fountain pen out of. But wood has some downsides to it. It's certainly not the most stable material. But let's see what Hongdian in this Model 660 has done. I saw it on eBay. I put in an order, and then Aaron talked about it in his pens review video that he does, and I'll put a link in the description so you can see that, and I'll put a link that goes right to his discussion of this particular pen. The transit was a little strange. The seller somehow got the wrong tracking number in there, so it showed it being delivered in California, but I think that was because this was one of those shipments from China where it comes in a packet, and the packet's delivered to someplace in the United States, and the packet's opened, and then another label is thrown on the packet, which kind of looks like it shipped from the United States and is delivered. So eventually they gave me the correct tracking number. They were very responsive to my email, and that's great. So the pen showed up a day after I told Aaron I didn't have it. So we'll let Mr. Crab wink at you, and we'll look at this pen in more detail. This is a good size pen. It has a good size weight to it. It feels really nice in the hand. Besides the nice wood grain, it also has, to me, it has a kind of hard rubber feel to it. It's hard to really describe, but that's how it is. And this is definitely machined from a piece of wood. Some of my other wooden pens, the viewers have commented they think it's a fabricated wood or a pressed wood or whatever, but I tend to disagree because nothing like real wood. And this comes in a variety of colors. We'll show you those colors. A very nice classical clip. Springy, but good enough to hang in on your fine shirt fabric, and the cap band is engraved to show that it's a Hongdian and it's a Model 660. So I think that's nice. The cap comes off in a little less than 2 turns, which is okay. And we'll see that interesting Hongdian two-tone nib with some interesting English words at the bottom of the nib, that 997 or 1997, which I think equates to the year of Hongdian's formation, but not necessarily having to do with fountain pens. I think it's really nice where they did a little bit of nice artistic engraving in the band here. I like the fact that they have a nice metal band at the bottom. That section feels good in the hand. It's on the small side, but I think it feels good. It fits okay. It posts deeply and securely. And it feels good weight-wise posted. You know, the balance is okay. And as I said, it's secure. It is a cartridge converter. So we'll take the barrel off. And we'll notice that the reason for that metal ring is because of metal threads, for the metal threads on the section. And metal stabilizes the wood. Wood doesn't work well in tension. It tends to crack. Compression is pretty good, or better at least. And I think this is a great converter. It's frosted, which I haven't seen for a while. It's branded. It works well, goes up and down. Yeah, it fits nice and securely. There's a little plastic ball in there, which I think is better than the metal spring, but I don't think any of them really do what they should do. We see a nice large opening, a nice metal band, You know, that nice insert, which fits very snugly when inserted into the section. So overall, very quality components, fit together well, look great. So I think it's time to do some comparisons and ink this puppy up and see how that interesting Hongdian nib writes. So here we have the Hongdian pen, partially disassembled. Let's focus on the converter, which has some unique features to it. The frosted bit is nice. The collar unscrews, so it's easy to disassemble. I'm going to leave that little plastic ball in there. I can live with that. I may add some silicone grease while I have it disassembled. And I really like that metal band at the end, that little insert, which I think helps seal against the nib assembly. And that's a fairly large opening there, which is also nice. The nib assembly unscrews, but with a normal amount of effort, I was not able to pull out the nib. As we saw before in the other Hongdian that I recently reviewed, it just has a very nice ornate nib there. And that's where the converter connects. You know, strong, secure. You know, this is a plastic section with two metal pieces on either end. And you got metal on metal with those threads on the end of the barrel. Overall, I'm very impressed with how well this pen is made. Use the LED to look inside there, but I'm pretty certain I know what we'll find. That clip is just classic. Just the right amount of spring, functional. Let's bring in the LED. We just have a few lights on in my pen room. And as usual, the LED is going to bring out some different attributes, visual attributes, to that very nice wood grain. If we look inside, we'll see a nice plastic insert there with those threads. And we look further down, and it looks like it's totally sealed inside there. There's that little ledge there that'll seal up against the bottom of the section. So again, as we peer with this light of investigation, we see things that are good, design-wise, execution-wise. They did a good job. As we're comparing this with the Moonman M6, again, very good wood. I do like a heavy-grained wood. That nice engraving is good. But if we look in here, we'll see that they're wood threads. There is a cap liner at the very top of the cap, and there is that ledge there that the cap liner does to seal up against the section. But I like how Hongdian did their cap. Another nice clip. So here's the M6 with the same amount of disassembly. Nothing inside it, and this converter is not quite as nice. No metal band and no insert like I like to see. I was able to pull this nib out, and you know, it's a classic injection molded feed with so many channels, so many fins. I just think complexity for the sake of complexity. You know, it has that same metal insert into the end of the barrel. This section is similar, but no metal at the end here, only metal at the one end. That is where the nib assembly screws into. There's those threads, and also the barrel screws into. So I do like this pen, but it did have an issue with drying out, and I think we'll see when we looked at the Hongdian that they have done things to address that with a full cap liner. Here we have some Chinese wooden pens assembled for the comparison. This is just a Delight wood pen. some Moonman M3, a Moonman M6, and of course the Hongdian 660. I have links to my reviews of these three wooden pens, so if you wanted to go into detail on these three pens, you can look at those videos. The M6 is the largest pen of this group, both in length and girth. The 660 is a close second. And this is just a generic Delight pen, and this is a Moonman that was, done a year or so ago. Let's uncap them and look at the business end. Here's where they take on a little bit of a different character. The Moonman M6 and the Hongdian both have a number 6 nib in them. Not the biggest section, but certainly a decent size section. This has a very small diameter, is small hourglass shaped section. These both have number 5 nibs. This is a classic section, but still relatively on the small side. This one doesn't have that metal insert, which these three share in common. The block threads on the M6 were nice. This uncaps with less than one turn. This metal section here is also good. This is the only one that has a metal ring here at the bottom of the section. So overall, all of these pens have their attributes. The N3 doesn't post. That's why I have the cap sitting off here as it falls over. There we go. I do like the wood in the M6. It's kind of like a tiger wood, I think they might refer to it as. These two both have a similar type of red wood, fine grain in it. The Hongdian wood is kind of in between. It's still on the red side. This is more of a brown. These two are much redder. All of these have recently been recoated with my beeswax and mineral oil protective coating, which we use on all of our wooden products. My beekeeper has made the combination of beeswax and mineral oil, which works very, very well. And I think it protects the wood, brings out the grain, and makes it feel good and last a pretty long time. Here's a close-up of the nibs and sections for your visual entertainment. And also I think it's good to show the relative look of these pens. And this is really where you're going to determine whether you like writing with a pen or not. To me, the 660 and the M6 are certainly comfortable writers. This one is not as comfortable, even though it is weighted towards the nib, which I do like. But the number 6 nib, I have to admit, looks much nicer on these pens than the number 5 nib on these other two. And I would be remiss if I didn't show this pen, the Moonman M1. Again, I really like that intense grain. So this kind of has a little bit of a red sheen to it. And that red could be from dye or some type of pigment added to the wood to bring out grain. Those of us that work with wood use Minwax quite a bit for that. But a stain can definitely change the way the wood looks. So it's really hard to tell unless you have the natural piece of wood to compare it to. But I just figured I'd throw this in a brass cap. This pen was a daily writer of mine for a while. I like the very thin design that fit well into loops on journals when I was carrying around a journal a lot and needed a pen that was easy to carry around. Now I'm at home and sitting at a desk, so the pen is not as useful as it once was. Before we do some writing, I just thought I would show these two pens because I feel they're very close. And the other pen that's close is the Jinhao 9056, which I've ordered. So when you try to find pens, if you're using eBay, I find it best to just do a search on the name of the pen and put the search into the fountain pen group. Here's an example of what you find when you search for the 660. Here's what you find when you search for the M6. And here's what you might find when you search for the Jinhao wooden pen, which when I get it will be compared to these two. Let's get back to the focus of this review. Here is the 660 next to the 960, two Hongdian pens that I recently have gotten, and I'm very impressed with them. They both have the same number 6 nib in them. The design, construction, the way they're put together, the little attention to details are all good with both of these pens. So I have to say that Hongdian has definitely raised their game, at least from the pens that I've been seeing. And that's great. So we have another manufacturer that seems to be interested in putting out quality pens with good nibs that look nice, feel good in the hand. What more can you ask for? As with most pens that have a dual fold-like design, they don't post that well. So this makes for a long pen. But it's really nice in my mind when you look at some of the consistencies. These sections are both done well. They have that metal band at the end, which is generally a mark of a quality pen. They have a nice engraved cap band, very nice artistic clips that are functional, so kudos to Hongdian. Both of these nibs look great, write great, so the consistency is there. Got some little bit of a different light here to show you the details. It's just nice to see that we have a new player that has joined the group. Looking forward to more Hongdian pens of this nature. I actually thought I had Noodler's Walnut, but I didn't. I've recently used the KWZ Brown, so I don't want to use that one again. So I figured I would bring this one back. Here's the color card, and dark brown is certainly an appropriate name. I don't see a lot of brown in this ink. I see a lot of kind of like dusty purplish gray. It's not a color I'm a fan of, but it's a bottle I have. It's a bottle I need to use up. Chromatography doesn't really show much either. It's just a weird color, to say the least. So I spent some time with the pen, and I have to say I'm very happy with it. So I do like metal pens. I like wood pens. I like pens made out of various resins. I like pens, let's be honest. But to me, a wooden pen is a unique feel. It's a unique look. You know, pretty much a natural material that is put into a form where it's a functional pen. And I think they did an excellent job with this design. I find it very comfortable to use just uncapped. We'll give you the size of that section. I like the flare out at the end. You don't really feel those threads, and there's really no step up, so you can hold it wherever you want. And it does post, and I'm okay posting that because it does have that metal band at the end of the cap, and we also saw that full liner inside, so I'm not worried about that putting stress on it. I'm not going to jam on the cap because it fits nicely without doing that. Here's the lengths of the pen, and here are the weights. I mean, I just feel it feels good. It's just very comfortable for me to use, and I like wood grain. So let's see how this nib puts down that Sailor ink. So this is a very smooth nib. And this is certainly a heavily pigmented ink. It's a little bit on the wet side, which I like. There's no real character. It's a very heavy pencil-like feedback. Yeah, you can put a little pressure on that nib and you can get a little bit of it to open up, but you know, not something I would do on a regular basis, but it just gives a little bit of a bounce to the writing, which is another thing that I like. So let's rate this pen. I'm going to give it a 9.3. It gets one check for the design, construction, and build. And I'm going to give it a half a check for the nib because the nib does work okay. And yes, occasionally I don't have the nib on the paper and I need to work on my writing over the camera. So we've reached the end of this video of an interesting wooden pen that I think is worth you looking at if you're interested in wooden pens like this. And it is well made. It has a good nib. It's a number 6. So there's a lot going for it. Thank you for watching. Man, you have many great writing experiences, and find a pen that you enjoy using to write with and write. Letters, doodles, journal, scribbles. That's the fun part, putting ink on paper. I hope all of you are staying safe, healthy, and happy. We've reached the end of this video. And we're going to say bye. Until the next video. Yep, got to keep that nib on paper. It is a little sensitive to angle, more than you would think. But if I write with it properly, it writes fine. And it's not shy about ink.